Hi, this is a foreigner in the Philippines. Welcome. Well, I'm just looking at all of the different ways that you have to meet challenges in the Philippines when you come. So maybe this is part of the relationship series, and maybe it's not. Maybe it's part of what you might call your relationship with the Philippines and the whole culture. So I put it down to about 6 different stages that you might have to go through, and each stage will depend on the successful passage through the prior stage. Okay, so looking at the first stage, when you get here, well, when you get here you'll have all kinds of eye candy. The women are beautiful, and the men, if that's your choice, they are quite different. They're always, it seems like they're always smiling no matter what. In fact, some of the videos that we've done, because people have been seen in terrible times of need and adversity, and they're still laughing and smiling, and some of our subscribers have said, why are they laughing? There's nothing funny here. Well, it's a different culture. It's the same world. What is the saying? Same planet, different world. And you have to understand that. So you will have fascination. There'll be all kinds of stuff that's totally real, totally unusual for you. You won't have seen it. You won't have seen people surviving by the use of a carabao. I'm talking mainly from a life in the province. We had a choice of living in the city. Found out that it was not really so much different from living in any city in the world. It's a city. It's city life. People are crowded together, and they act in a way of people who are crowded together. So we're looking at really being in the province. So there's the fascination, there's the eye candy, there's stuff that you see every day that you go, wow. And there's a big wow factor when you get to the Philippines, because it is a beautiful place. Now, there's the thrill also of the new adventure. This is something that's totally new for you. If you have come here to live, then you will have the standby, the security, the support of a loving partner. So that's taken as a plus, that's taken as a given, because if you are marrying and you're coming out here to live, you've got some big changes to do. Now, the next stage that you would go would be where there's a slight loss of patience, and unfortunately not yet the loss of the arrogance of being in the West, feeling that you are part of a first world country. Oh boy, that number is not quite applicable here in the Philippines, because as far as being adjusted to a simple life, as far as being adjusted to having not too much, sometimes little, in fact sometimes being on the border of just surviving, and yet still being able to find a measure of happiness which may be beyond some of the people in the West who, materially speaking, have everything. So I think that the second stage that I would predict is that of teaching everybody the better way. Well, in the West, in the #1, in the first world country, we do everything so much better. And this is a terrible temptation. Wherever you go, you will criticize and compare the here with what used to be there. Okay, or is what is now there. What used to be your here, well, your here has changed, and you need to understand that. So, can you teach everybody the better way? Well, sometimes you can, and it is best done rather than in words. It's best done by your actions. And if you've come here and you've made a giant leap from the first world country to this, a third world country, as people often refer to it as, you will have to make some huge compromises. And I feel, and I'm on record as saying this over and over, that the average expat that comes out here comes out carrying a monster load of arrogance, and you really need to lose that in my estimation, that's how I see it. It's only my opinion, and maybe if you disagree with that, you will already be at the point of reaching for the delete button or the next button for the next video. So you have to be out of the stage of always comparing this as it is now and saying, well, you know that you know, back in the UK or back in anywhere, they do this, and if they behave like this, my God, they'd be out of business. And, well, sorry, you're not there anymore. You're here. So embrace the here. Look at here. What's 3? Well, 3 is dependent on you getting past 2, right? Right. If you've arrived at 3, then perhaps you will have lost some of that arrogance and may have realized that you're here for a reason. Now, there's no need to go into all religious or this is God's way of teaching you the next lesson, or the Lord, or Buddha, or karma, or any of that. You may be here for a reason, and there is an overall reason somewhere in your psyche that has brought you to this place. Now, if you haven't been able to get past 2, you're probably reading this or looking at this on the plane for going home. And if you're not, then you should be, I think. There's no point in coming here and comparing everything that used to be in the land that you ran away from and saying, this is not good enough. Because it is good enough, and if you give it a chance, you'll find out that it might even be a lot better. So, you got past 2 and you're at number 3, and number 3 is need of change in yourself. Okay? Not just trying to get everybody else to do it the way it did back home, but realizing that you are the foreigner. This is not your country. If you're here, this is not your country, and the only way that you can make it your country is up here and in here, in the heart. And I'm a great believer in this. You have to be willing to change, and you have to be willing to change in ways which you never thought that you would change. And your journey will be special to you. I can't tell you what the journey is. I know what it was for me, but it may well be very different for you. So, need of change, and here you are, buddy. You're going to have to make those changes, and it will require patience, it will require tolerance, it will require all of those great qualities that maybe are completely absent in the Western world. Okay, so, realizing you're the foreigner, you would get to number 4, and number 4 is acceptance of the culture. This is where you accept it without comparing. Now, if you've learned a foreign language before, if you've ever learned a foreign language, then you will realize that at some point you stop thinking in English and changing to the foreign language. Now, that's the point at which I'm looking at now for number 4, acceptance of the culture. In the same way that you've reached a point where you can accept the language of whatever you're learning. This is accepting the culture. You accept that you can walk out, and the good parts, you can walk out on the road, wait for a few minutes and get a tricycle into town for 12 pesos, less than 25 pence or cents. So you need to accept the culture. The important thing is as is. So it's no point in accepting the culture and say, well, it's a load of crap, but that's the way it is, isn't it? No, that's not the way. That's not acceptance. That's forbearance, putting up with it. That's tolerating it. No, I don't think that's acceptance. You need to accept the culture as it is. And that's a very important stage. Now, if you can get to the point where you accept the culture as it is, then you probably will embrace the culture. If not, as I say, you might be watching this video on the plane for home. So what will embracing entail? Well, I think that it will embrace the language, because if you're here and you have accepted the culture and embraced the culture, then you will realize that as a foreigner, if you don't know the language, you are missing out on so much. You're missing out on, why is everybody laughing? Why is everybody so happy when the whole thing is falling to pieces? Outside right now, you may have heard the rumbling in part of this video. You can hear the rumbling of that cement mixer going round, and they're out there, they're working so incredibly hard, and yet they're laughing, they're enjoying being alive. They're not just wishing for, oh God, isn't it 5 o'clock yet? And that's what you need to embrace. You need to know what's happening around you. You can't live with the most common phrase being, what did they say? What did they mean? You can't do that. Now, a lot of you will point the finger and say, oh yes, Terence, and what are you doing about learning the language? Well, I'm learning it slow. And I'm learning the lesson of how badly I need to speak that language. And in time, you will hear me speaking that language, I promise. So 5, that was 5, sorry, I'm ahead and behind at the same time. So what will that bring you to? It will bring you to number 6, which I think is the final stage, and that is not just embracing, not just learning, but having put all of that behind you, you will actually be integrating into the culture. You will be feeling as if you are part of it, and you will have a sense of being home. Now, much as I haven't learned the language, I do feel at home. And I wish that you will enjoy the same thing if you come here. Don't put yourself in that position where people around you are thinking, well, if he doesn't like it, why doesn't he sod off and go home? Don't do that. Follow the steps. Look at what has been said here, and if it makes sense to you, then use it, and be aware that you are going through changes that are going to need adjustment, learning, realization, and, as I say, finally integrating with this wonderful people that you have come to share your life with, who are willing to give you a home and accept you with a smile. This is a foreigner in the Philippines. Good luck on your journey. I always love to hear from people and how they're getting on and how they're meeting their challenges. Write me a good letter and I will read it out in a video with pleasure, with joy, and with a sense of camaraderie for you. Take care now. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, even share. Bye for now.